Welcome back. My name is Naik, and in this section we are going to discuss UI5 for Project C.O.R.E. As you all know, UI5 is an open source library from SAP which can be used to build your enterprise UI. Now UI5 is unique because it has a lot of components which you can use, and most of the components are responsive. There is also a licensed version of UI5 which is SAP UI5, but in this project core we will be mostly utilizing Open UI5 for the normal development, and for visualization component we will be using SAP UI5. So if you are new to UI5, you can get started with the UX and UI of UI5 with our basic course, and which is actually free. And if I go to our platform UI5 CN, you can find this under courses, under SAP, and you can see here SAP UI5 Fiori and new UX getting started. And also if you see the bundles, there's a complete SAP UI5 end-to-end. This is actually the world's #1 way to learn SAP UI5, and it's actually created by me. I'm not taking the credit, but the number of enrollment are massive, and this is one of the top courses to be taken from UI5 CN platform. You can go through this entire bundle and courses to get a solid grip of SAP UI5 or Open UI5. Now coming back to our project, when we built any application using UI5, the first thing which I always want to know is the user experience. What the user experience will be about. Then the second thing is knowing the components. What are the components which I can use or I might be using here? And then I should understand the development activity involved in building the component, integrating the components, or putting it together. And then I will start the work. I never start the work initially. I go through all the phases and then only I start the work. So let's go ahead and understand the user experience, the components, and the development, and then only we will start the work. So if I go into the use case which we are going to make, this is the use case which we are going to make. Project C.O.R.E. So let me select my nice pencil. So here is my pencil, and I will try to write. Yeah, I can write. So when I talk about Project C.O.R.E, and C.O.R.E actually stand for Create Your Own Recommendation Engine. So most of the part of the recommendation engine lies in your machine learning and your Hadoop and Spark, and this is our Sparky system which is running in AWS machine. And when we make our Spark system talk with SAP HANA, in SAP HANA we will be actually seeing changes in MRP tables. So this is actually about our use case. You can get more information about our use case in Project C.O.R.E handbook or in the Project C.O.R.E webinars as well, where we have covered the use case in a very nice and clear fashion. So let's try to see how the UI should be made so we can fix or decide on the user experience. Now, one of the most easy way to create your own user experience is to get some motivation from existing designs. So if you are trying to make a custom application of UI5 because your business user need more control on the application to change the colors, the layouts, but they are just telling you to get started with a basic framework, and then later on they will be having more customization on it. The best way is to find a Fiori application which might be available in your use case, and then taking some of the ideas of that Fiori application and building it from there. So in this case, there is an existing MRP Fiori application, which user experience we will be utilizing in our project building. So let's go ahead and see what is the user experience of this MRP application. So let's look into the user experience of our MRP application. So this is a screenshot of Fiori MRP cockpit, which we will be actually making custom with UI5 controllers. Now, basically, if you are new to UI5, I will highly recommend to go through our basic course, which is actually free in UI5cn.com. And if you are already familiar with UI5, then you might guess that this is actually a tile screen. These are all the tiles, and basically, as you can see, there are some KPIs mentioned already in the tile. So this is actually a KPI tile components, and when I click on this, then I will basically go into detail screen, and this detail screen is the page 2, and this can be page 1. And in the page 1, you have just a tiles where you are showing some of the KPI, and when I go to one individual tile, I will be actually having a split screen. So this is the master and detail layout. So I will have the master where I will be showcasing all the inventory product in form of a list, and in the detail screen I will be having the visualization. So the visualization is a bar chart, and there is also a table. So this is like too much to take if you are new to UI5, but if you are already an experienced developer, you are already doing calculation that if I'm going to use visualization, then I have to actually use SAPUI5, because the visualization is actually present in your SAP UI5 and not present in your Open UI5. So these are basic calculation which will come in the second stage, where I am finding out what are the components which I might be using. I can again retweak it. I don't need to make a split screen in my page 2. I can just have a list, and it goes to page 3 again, where I will be having a visualization. And if I go back, then I go back to the list. So this can be a second way of doing things. You have first a KPI tile, then you have list, and then in the page 3 you are showing the visualization. So you don't need to use a master and detail layout. But it depends upon you how you want to make the user experience of your application, or to be more concrete, it depends upon what your customer might be interested to work with on a daily basis. But personally, if you ask me, I would prefer something which is happening there in that time. So if I press, let me remove all these markers, and so we can see the second screen on a very clear way. So many markers, there's so many markers. Okay, so this is what the max I can do. And what I can basically see here is, if I have a list title here and some of the KPI here, and I press it, I can see the result happening in the detail screen there itself. And I can again press on another tile, I can press again on another list item, and I can see the details. So this is something which makes the user experience much more easy to navigate, because your user is going to spend a lot of time here. They're going to spend a lot of time, and this is actually a clock which I'm making because This is a sand clock. Anyways, coming back to here, we will be spending, not we, actually the user is going to spend a lot of time working on this page 2, and you don't need to provide a user experience where they are doing a lot of back and forth. So they will be clicking on one item, then they are going to go to the next page. They're again going to see the details and go back to the page where they can see other details, and then they are going to page 3 and again to page 2. And this is, I will say, a bad UX. So it is better to have both of this functionality present in one screen, because user might really be tapping on a lot of list item, and then they might be seeing those visualization, and this activity might happen more frequently. So a better user experience is actually having the list and the visualization or the detail made together with a master and detail layout. And this is exactly what is done in your Fiori application, and that's the main reason why we are going to replicate the same user experience. And now this is how you find out the user experience of your application. These meetings might be done with your customers, and they will be giving you more insights on the functionality or the way they look or use an application, and based on their feedback, you have to log a user experience. Once you have logged the user experience, the next step is to find out what are the components you might be requiring. So if I go to OpenUI5 hana.ondemand.com/explode, then I can see I need a tile, and tiles normally don't come single. You have to use a generic tile or a tile container where you can put those tiles. So I will be using a generic tile container and where our tiles will be put. So those components we have access to, and then I can also see the code here if I press this button, and this is the XML views which we will be actually using to do development this time. And the next component is actually your master details layout, which is also called split container. So we'll be using split container. So I have just filtered there with split, and here it is, split container. I can see other components as well, and I can see the code, and I can play with them and understand if it fits my purpose or not. And once I lock a components, then I have to spend a lot of time understanding how to put it inside my application. So the second component is going to be split container, which we are going to use. And the third thing is visualization. Now, if this is OpenUI5 Explode and I try to look for visualization, there's nothing. There's no chart. So the only chart you will find is in SAP UI5 Explorer, because actually all the charts are present in your SAP UI5. So let's look into visualization, and we are going to use VisFrame, and we do have bar chart, bubble chart, column chart, a lot of charts. And basically this chart utilizes D3.js. You can custom make the charts which are present or shown here, but it is much easy or advisable to use pre-built charts if you are using UI5 library. So with this, we have also logged the components which we might be using for our application, which is our tiles and generic tile container, then our split container, and then our visualization which we found on SAP UI5. So we have to decide at this point, as one of the components which we want to utilize in the project is in SAP UI5. So we cannot actually use OpenUI5, because then we will not have access to your VisFrames, and you don't want to really load two libraries which are almost same or identical at any point of time. This will just increase your load time, because of one external component. And if you are using SAP UI5, then stick with SAP UI5. So the decision on a project development basis should be made to use component in SAP UI5 because you don't have your visualization component in your OpenUI5. So let me again check if we do have the two components which we found out in the OpenUI5, which is our generic tile. So let's search it, generic tile, and yes, we do have our generic tile here. And the second thing which we need is your split app and split container. So we do have the split container present here. So we have decided to go with SAP UI5 for the project development because it has all the components necessary to create our user experience. So let's catch up in the next section where we are going to start development with our Eclipse Neon platform. And if you want to know more about SAP UI5 basics, then you can go ahead and start learning SAP UI5 and OpenUI5 from UI5 CN. The free course is good enough for you to get started, and you can get access to the free course in SAP and SAP UI5 Fiori and new UX getting started. I will highly recommend this course if you are new to UI5 because we are not going to spend major time in learning those components. We'll go ahead and get started with the development once we are set up with the prerequisite. So let's get started and build our application from scratch for MRP. Before that, in the next week, we will also see what is MRP and how it is done on a functional way, so you can get a very good idea about what we are trying to do in our backend system as well. So let's catch up in the next week where we will start building our UI5 application, work with SAP HANA, and know about MRP on a functional way. Thank you for watching this week section, which was prerequisite section for the week 1. So let's catch up in the next week where we will start development of the main application.